Okay, perfect. And also for those of you joining late, my camera stopped working like 30 seconds into the meeting, so apologies for that. Anyways, I'll get the lightning intro started. I'll go first, and then I'll sort of go across my screen and call on the next person. So I'm Liz. I'm the Plant Conservation Program Coordinator at Bartlett Tree Research Labs and Arboretum, and I am the Program Coordinator for GCC Ash. So Julian, you're next to my screen if you want to unmute yourself and quickly introduce yourself.
I'm in a restaurant and maybe background noise. Sorry about that. I'm listening very carefully, but I won't say very much, okay? In
Okay,
Kentucky.
introduce yourself.
I'm very interested in doing more collection of endangered ash species. Currently planning on a possible Arizona trip in the next year or so.
Perfect. All right, Radka and Jonathan.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rosenthal, Director of the Ecological Research Institute. And since 2017, we've been running the monitoring and managing ash program, MAMA, which it focuses on finding lingering ash for resistance breeding. And we're also involved in the Sustaining Ash Partner Network and other collaborative initiatives.
Perfect. Jason Kilgore.
Hi, I'm Jason Kilgore. I'm at Washington Jefferson College. I've been working for about 8 years on the effectiveness of selective insecticide treatment on both treated and untreated ash, also involved in lingering ash work, so identifying and monitoring lingering ash in the field. And with this program, I'm involved with TSIP also to help coordinate some of the plantation efforts that various parties are doing. Thanks.
Perfect. Alan, go ahead.
I'm Alan Whittemore. I'm primarily interested in taxonomy and relationships in the ash species, and also ploidy level, particularly how it relates to the taxonomy. And I'm currently at working out of Morton Arboretum, but I'm retired.
Okay, perfect. I will say we have a lot of people to get through. So for the rest of these, if people could just give like their name and maybe their title and their association or their region, that would be great. Okay, so up next, Valentin.
Yes, I'm Valentin from Switzerland, and leader of research group Forest Protection in Switzerland.
Awesome, thank you. Let's see. Was that Dave Carey? Who was on the phone? I just see the phone number, so I can't tell the name. The 512 phone number. If you can unmute and introduce yourself real quick. There you go.
Okay, I'm no longer muted. My name's Adam Blanton. I'm here in Central Texas. I'm split between Austin and Smithville. I'm a small-time grower, and I am with Blanton's Nursery. It's just me. That's all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Adam Black. Okay, he's driving. He is our director of horticulture, conservation, and botanical research at Bartlett Tree Experts. He's driving, so he might have trouble participating much. Jess, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Liz, for organizing this. My name is Jess Gaylor. I'm the curator at the Chicago Botanic Garden. I kind of manage part of our living collections and looking for how we can support in this conservation effort.
Perfect. Thank you. Abby?
I'm Abby Ratcliffe. I'm a research technician out of the Forest Health Lab at North Carolina State University.
Awesome. Diana?
Hi, I'm Diana Soteropoulos. I'm a botanist at NatureServe.
Awesome. Okay, Dylan?
I'm a forester trainee with New Jersey Forest Service, and we do some treatment with ash as well. So anywhere we can support, and as well as hear other opportunities.
Perfect. Gancho?
I'm professor in forest genetics at Oregon State University.
Perfect. Rachel Kepler.
Hi, I'm a postdoc researcher at Holden Forest and Gardens, Northeast Ohio.
Great, thank you. Scott Namestnik. I'm sorry, I probably butchered that.
That was actually perfect. Scott Namestnik. I'm the botanist with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, Division of Fish, Wildlife, and Nature Preserves.
Great. Brandon Wheeler.
Hi there, conservation ecologist of the North Carolina Botanical Garden.
Melissa Finley.
Hi, I'm Melissa Finley. I'm the woody plant curator at the New York Botanical Garden.
Great. Romero Severson. Oh, you're muted.
I'm June Romero Severson. I work on the quantitative genetics of lingering ash resistance in Fraxinus. I am associated with the Trees in Peril project of the Nature Conservancy, University of Notre Dame professor retired.
Great. Dave Carey.
Hey, back to me. Dave Carey. I'm a tree breeder for what did she call me? She called me a tree improvement specialist. I guess that's my new title. Northern Research Station. I work with Jennifer Cook, Mary Mason.
Perfect. Kelly Oaten.
Hey, I'm at NC State University, assistant professor and extension specialist.
Awesome. Jeremy Schmutz.
Hey, I'm Jeremy at Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology in Huntsville, Alabama. I work on genetics and genomics of plants and trees.
Okay, great. Rachel Swanwick.
Hi all, I'm Rachel Swanwick. I'm the manager of the Sustaining Ash Partners Network, a regional collaborative in the Northeast for ash stewardship.
Great. Lauren Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you. I am a postdoc researcher with the Ash Protection Collaboration across Wampanoag Lab at the University of Maine.
Okay, this is another one I'm probably going to butcher. Daniel Andrew Waitosh.
Super close. Yeah, not phonetic at all. My name is Daniel Wietosh. I am the supervisor of arboriculture at Cornell Botanic Gardens. We just installed our first 200 lingering ash last season.
Heck yeah, sounds good. Cara Escalona? Cara?
Hi, I'm Kara Scalona. I'm a forester trainee in the Forest Health Program with the New Jersey Forest Service.
Okay, great. Tim Tebow?
I'm Tim. I work at the Huntington as curator of Lodi plants, and I've collected ash seeds from Seattle to Corpus Christi, Texas.
Great. Scott O'Donnell?
Hi, I'm Scott O'Donnell. I'm with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Forestry Division, and I'm their genetic and ecology specialist.
Perfect. Seth Hamby?
Hello, everybody. My name is Seth Hamby. I'm the Director of Living Collections at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden.
Okay. And Adam Blanton, you have your square up here, but I think we already talked to you through your phone number. Danielle Sandell. Okay. She disappeared for me. And I didn't hear anything. But it looks like now we're at Richard Sneezco.
Yeah, hi everybody. U.S. Forest Service, Dorena Genetic Resource Center out in Oregon.
Okay, great. Matt Borden.
Center geneticist. Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Hi folks, Matt Borden, plant pathologist at Bartlett Tree Research Labs in Arboretum in Charlotte. Good to see many of you again. Back to you, Liz.
Okay. Scott Merkel.
Hi, I'm glad to see there's multiple Scotts in the group. That never happens. I'm recently retired from the University of Georgia, and my lab, when it was in operation, we did a lot of in vitro propagation, and we did a lot of work on in vitro propagation of ash species.
I actually graduated from UGA genetics program master's last summer. So it was in Jill Anderson's lab.
Oh,
I
sure.
guess I'm supposed to say go dogs now.
Oh, sure. Okay, you said it.
All right, we're almost done here. Paige Camcross.
Hey, my name is Paige Carncross. I'm the new plant ecologist with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources.
Great. Zane.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zane Smith, University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I'm a PhD student, and I do ASH Biodiversity Genomics.
Also, he's on the steering committee for GCC Ash. Bill?
Bill Finch, Director at Paint Rock Forest Research Center in Northeast Alabama. I work closely with Jeremy Smutch and Hudson Alpha.
Great. Kim?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Kim Scherer, the Morton Arboretum, Director of Collections and Curator, and I'm super excited to see this really broad spread of folks that you've pulled together, Liz.
Me too. Nate? Marin?
Hi, my name is Nate Marin. I'm a woody plant breeder and genomic specialist at Morton Arboretum, interested in ash breeding, selection, and resistance mechanisms through biotechnology.
Great. Meg?
Hi, Meg Staten, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, interested in ash genetics and genomics, also on the mobile app data collection side.
All right. And then lastly, we've got Danielle Sandell again, if your connection is good enough.
Yes, apologies. I pressed the wrong button like an amateur. This is Danny Sandell. I'm the project manager of the Trees in Peril project with the Nature Conservancy.
Awesome. All right. I think that is everyone. If I missed anyone, you can go ahead and unmute yourself quick. But I think I got everybody. All right, moving on. Okay, great. So I'm going to try to share my screen now. Hold on one second while I figure I have to do something else first. Let's see. Okay. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I created this survey to gauge interest in the various actions related to the needs and capacities that came up during the February meeting. And two major themes that came up in the meeting were the need to conserve existing diversity before it's gone, particularly in terms of collecting and storing germplasm, and the need to better understand and recognize that diversity. So both of these needs include actions that are related and also not related to lingering ash and emerald ash borer, which take different levels of coordination and could ultimately be delineated into working groups in different ways. So we didn't know if maybe some patterns would emerge through the survey results. And so in this bar graph here to the left, that shows the results for what was in the sort of like checklist that people could choose from that's there to the right. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. And looking at the survey results, there's clear interest in field collections for both regular baseline biodiversity purposes and also lingering ash, and for lingering ash surveys and emerald ash borer monitoring. We also had a few write-ins, which I put at the bottom here. Sorry to call anyone out by putting people's names there. But yeah, so we had a steering committee meeting last week where we were sort of looking at these results, and we kind of started talking about how we could best circumscribe these various actions that are all sort of related and unrelated in different ways into really actionable working groups that are niche enough that it's easy to plan and get things done, but like not too niche where a bunch of working groups like actually needed to be like talking together to make things happen. So we figured we would open it up to everyone here who's interested to see like what all of your thoughts are. If there was anything that, you know, maybe wasn't captured by the survey. I know that, you know, there's probably people here who maybe didn't see the survey in time. So I originally was going to have people raise their hands and call on them so this isn't like a big chaotic conversation, but I have 3 pages of people on my team, so it might be kind of hard for me to keep track of that. So I think I'm going to try by letting people sort of self-regulate, and if you have something to say, maybe you can unmute yourself. I don't, and if it gets too chaotic, we can switch to like a hand raising situation here. But before I open it up to the floor, I was wondering if there was anyone from the steering committee here who had anything specific that they wanted to say before we sort of like enter into this broader conversation. No, I'm seeing head shakes from Zane and Meg, Alan. All right, great. So, does anyone have any thoughts or opinions they'd like to share just out of the gate for the best way to sort of circumscribe these groups in a meaningful, efficient way? Another thing that I'll say, looking at the survey results, is, well, I guess you can't really see it here, but in the survey, there was a section where people could indicate if they had an interest in leading a working group, and no one really did. And so, you know, I'm fine to take on the helm of organizing and keeping some of these groups going, at least in the short term, until maybe a leader emerges. I know there's also like other members of the steering committee who are, you know, some of these groups are more in like their expertise who are also potentially willing to do the same. But if anyone feels like very called or even a little interested in maybe being an organizer for one of these groups, definitely don't be shy because you don't have any competition at this moment. I see Jason is raising his hand.
Sure. I'll just try to help you get this going, Liz. Okay. So
All
I
right.
see my name is on the field trials and seed orchards. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm already involved in TSIP and engaged in working with people who are involved in that group. And as some of the people in this group already know, this GCC Ash know, many of us are also involved in the Nature Conservancy's Tree Species in Peril program. And so what I'm getting at is that not only is it likely that there's a lot of overlap between what GCC Ash is moving toward doing at a larger scale, perhaps, especially geographic scale, but there are a lot of other research programs and grant-funded programs that will also overlap and dovetail and support what some of these working groups that you propose that emerged out of the surveys. And so I suspect that my name is on here because I probably clicked the box that I'd be interested in actively participating in any of these activities. And so since I'm involved in TSIP in that kind of domain also, that's why I'd be happy to help engage in coordinate with that group because there's a lot of overlap, right? And I could see that with some of these other groups too, perhaps, and that there could be a lot of overlap with what other people are already doing.
Yeah, so that definitely brings up a point that I meant to cover in my little spiel, which is we know that there are already groups, whether it's like regional groups or groups of, you know, across expertise that are already doing work. We're not trying to like reinvent the wheel or like carbon copy what is already being done. we're trying to delineate groups, like say with the lingering or the like seed collecting and meta collection development. Something that's more like range wide that sort of goes across different regions, and there's maybe like not one institution or like one group who is going after those things, but like germplasm from that is going to benefit like the entire ASH community, whether it's for like researchers to use down the road, or it's just for like our collective, national or international sort of conservation backup to like restore ecosystems in the future or what have you. So I guess a question is for networks that like already exist, what is a way that we can add value, or like what is a way that you would like to network or receive help from other groups or individuals that you feel like you don't have access to right now, or that you feel like there needs to be like a broader umbrella above your group to help you like either do your job better, or that you just see as a need for ash conservation in general?
My short response is that a lot of our work is more geographic and species focused. So, we're focused on white, green, and maybe some black ash. And there are other people who are focusing on other species, like Jill Hamilton's group working more with black ash. And there are a lot of other ash that people are not yet doing, even thinking about a seed orchard or even maybe some breeding work. So I think what GCC Ash can do is create a broader net and bring in people from different larger geographic regions and other species on which we're not focusing, and bring those to the group, not necessarily as core, but as part of that group. I think that could be helpful too. So identifying people who are doing that kind of work in other places and plugging into existing and developing networks.
Yes, Radka and Jonathan.
So Jonathan here, and I should have introduced Radka alongside me, our senior scientist, but I wanted to add that in addition to, I think, complementing things geographically and taxonomically, there's also different realms of expertise and different approaches, different methodologies, even just for breeding, identifying lingering trees and breeding material from them. I know that Richard, I hopefully don't butcher his name, Sneesko, and has like a different approach than some of the approaches where, in terms of, identifying lingering individuals and breeding them and so forth, than some of the things that we're using. So I think all of these can complement each other and we can all learn from each other. So, any way that we can complement each other's efforts and expand our scopes of expertise and capabilities is great. And just one thing that I also want to get in here when I'm looking at the possible topics of working groups is what I'm imagining is, part of the purpose of the survey is the challenge is, getting groups, I think, that are effective and identify particular topics, and then you have to kind of maybe split things in some way. So there's like lingering ash search and survey and seed collecting, in parentheses, lingering ash. So is that all under the rubric or under the umbrella of lingering ash, or are there two different groups, one involved in lingering ash identification and one involved in seed collection, and then to some extent they overlap, and so I think to make things as practicable as possible and doable, and where you have appropriate information flow, but also appropriate focus. So, and I could see myself, if people were willing to go along with it, taking a leadership role in something involving lingering ash, say lingering ash search working group, if it comes to be.
Yeah, definitely. So the idea behind all of these categories wasn't necessarily to have a working group for each category, but to see like, and in this meeting, we're hoping to get feedback from everyone where it's like, we know that the value of this group is in like expanding networks and communicating between different like regions and areas of expertise. So like, what are the best ways to sort of like organize that communication without just spamming everyone all the time through the GCC Ash listserv? And how can we, like, what are the best ways, like when we look at this survey or like other things that people bring up, because this is not like exhaustive list of choices. But yeah, just figuring out like which ones, you know, would kind of belong in a group together versus, you know, maybe separate. Yeah. Zane says working on this currently in the chat. And another thing that I'll point out right now is you can join a working group and just be there to, you know, be a fly on the wall and like hear what people are talking about. I don't want people to think that by joining a working group, you're like committing to some like specific role. I figured I'd just get that out there right now. So I could, if this makes sense to the other members of the steering committee, I could share that document that like we had started brainstorming on about the various groups and see if people have comments about what we've started, you know, sort of talking about so far. Does that sound viable? Okay, I will share a different screen then. Let me see here. Sorry, I have a lot of tabs open. I'm navigating right now. Okay, this is probably going to look chaotic, but sorry. I'm trying to find the window on my share screen. It's not giving it to me as an option right now, which is strange. Sorry guys, hold tight for a second. Well, I will at least, I guess I can't really share it through the, let's see, look at the chat. Let's see, Rodka and Jonathan say, what if instead of working groups, we will have meetings on particular topics? Yeah, I don't actually think we need a working group for everything. I think that that's definitely a viable option. I think it's going to be like, we're going to have a combination of both. And it's, again, it's just going to be figuring out like, what do we want to have as an actual working group versus what are things that can kind of just come up as, you know, one-offs or like upon request. Yeah, okay. Oh, here we go. I found it. Sorry, guys. I have so many tabs open. Okay, I think this is the right one. Is this the right one, Zane, that you guys can see? I can't see what y'all are seeing.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we had been toying around with an idea of like for maybe like 3 initial working groups. Perhaps having one that's framed around field collections that aren't lingering ash focused. And so this would be for, you know, seed, scions, cuttings, herbarium specimens, pollen, what have you, that's more geared towards like biodiversity studies and conservation of like ecological or geographic diversity. And then maybe having a group that is more lingering ash focused and is more like surveying and monitoring. And then as those are found, you know, there can be plans to collect that germplasm and get them into like breeding programs or into like conservation programs or whatnot. And and then having one that's focused on taxonomy and annotations. So there's a lot of misidentification across existing specimens, and as these species complexes become more clarified, there's a need to sort of have those represented in collections, but also to support that work in the first place, there just needs to be a lot more like herbarium collecting to start to describe like morphology and whatnot. And so the taxonomy annotations group is perhaps like maybe the most clear cut. And we were thinking maybe that group could also be the ones to sort of spearhead some of the identification documents that, you know, maybe need better like updating and distribution. But it's these first two that we're still trying to figure out, like, would this be the best, you know, separation, or, you know, should maybe these be reconfigured a little bit? And then you can see in the purple is, you know, we were starting to think about like, okay, like if this was a working group, like what would it potentially look like in terms of activities and goals and stuff? But like I said, this is all just a brainstorming document. And so none of this is written in stone. And we really wanted to hear from other people, like what their thoughts and opinions were. If anyone has anything, maybe not. Jason Kilgore.
Sure, I'll just say that I think these are three good working groups, right? So we need to know what's out there. So those are the taxonomy annotations, and there's a lot of unresolved information, and it's like an umbrella to the other two groups. That is, we need to get ahead of the front. So do collections for germplasm conservation, preservation, as well as collecting or monitoring, identifying potential genetically resistant trees into the future. So I don't know about EAB monitoring. I think EAB monitoring is part of trying to understand if those truly are lingering, that are genetically resistant, but I don't know if we're going to get that kind of information from within the field. And it's, you know, it's quite labor intensive and doesn't, it's really just are those EAB detected or not in that area. So I don't know about the EAB part, but yeah, those seem like three definitely important working groups. And I'll add that we need to have some place for the breeding. So we need to have the breeding, the generation of the stock, and then some place to put it. So to me, it seems like there are kind of 4 to 5 different groups that we're identifying here.
Yeah, I think that's right, Jason, that having a place to put stuff is super important, right? You can do all the seed collections in the world. They need to be tied back to the species ID piece, right? So not only do you collect seed, you collect all of the other phenotypes that are necessary to figure out what that tree actually is, even though you are certain of what it is. You might be certain and wrong, right? So being careful about that. And then, yeah, I mean, Jason's right. You gotta have a place to put stuff, either whether it's a seed bank or in vivo or field sites where you plant things and protect them forever.
And Dave, it sounded like you were speaking from experience there a moment ago. But aside from that, I think that we need to, I need to make sure that these groups are connected as a network. It's not like they're working independently of each other. And I think you made that point too. So obviously, you know, anybody doing any of the taxonomy work needs to be associated with the field collections work, with the lingering ash, with the breeding, and with putting stuff out into conservation plantings and field trials.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of overlap and communication between the groups for sure. And people are going to be in multiple groups, I would imagine.
So I think setting up that structure and that communication structure would be most helpful from what we could get from you, Liz. Yes. Is that like who's who's kind of coordinating or co-coordinating those groups, who's among those groups, so who needs to be in those groups and who wants to be in those groups, and then how are we going to enhance communication that's useful between the groups that they can use to motivate, promote the activity in each of the groups. And Rodka and Jonathan have had their hand up for a while, so I want to turn my mic off and give them a chance.
We concur with what you were saying and what Dave was saying. I think, I can see those three groups that were proposed plus one on breeding. And as to your point about EAB monitoring, not being part of the steering committee or of these deliberations, I'm guessing that what is in mind is maybe not so much EAB monitoring as much as ash health monitoring, which would enable detection and identification of lingering trees.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jonathan, but that I don't see why we need to be investing resources at this point in time with the house burning down in monitoring EAB populations in areas with potential lingering ash.
Well, I think the EAB monitoring part came from the fact that it seems like, at least in the Southeast, that there's a misconception about there not being a big EAB problem down there, or that there won't be a big impending EAB problem down there, and that it is spreading and not being reported. And so people don't even know when we should begin looking for lingering ash because the EAB isn't being reported. And so it's good to have an idea of I know that EAB doesn't spread as a front, right? It's a little more piecemeal across the landscape, but having it detected and reported early, I would think would be pretty important in determining when to start looking for lingering ash, and also when to start making sure people are, land managers or local governments are very well informed that it is now on their turf. Zane, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in really quickly and say, what gets measured gets managed. So I think it's really important that even if we're not going out in the field having everybody just surveying for emerald ash borer, which people have pointed out is very difficult, it's very hard. I think it's potentially helpful to think about not what do we have the capacity to do today, but also what could we build the capacity to? What are we building toward? So would it be helpful if we could do to have a larger monitoring effort, particularly along the periphery or the leading edge of the emerald ash borer invasion? I think probably yes. So I just wanted to kind of throw that caveat out there that this is both a what can we do immediately and what can we also build toward type of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, is your hand up? Is that a current hand up or is that an old hand up?
Sorry, I keep muting myself. Yeah, my hand is up.
Okay.
You're talking about folks not perceiving an EAB problem, and that kind of put a thought in my head that not EAB doesn't impact each species equally, right? So it may be a situation where, okay, your most common species, maybe it's built more, maybe less preferred, and while you're out and seeing lots of healthy ash trees, maybe the albopalustras, which is this new thing, or maybe the water ash, because you're not walking in the swamp, who wants to do that, are all dead or are getting heavily impacted. So I think some monitoring or some careful observation at least is certainly warranted. That's it.
Rodka and Jonathan, is that a current hand?
It's a current hand. Just a clarification. Just a clarification that I'm not advocating for getting rid of EAB monitoring or allocating no resources to that. I was just saying that I think EAB monitoring it needs to be kind of folded into, and my impression is from the way that working group or is titled into that ultimate search for lingering ash. So in fact, what we do when we're trying to time where and when to search for lingering ash, it actually can start with using EAB detection data and then forecasting from that based on standard mortality trajectories and so forth. So I think that EAB monitoring can be folded in with ash health monitoring, which ties back to what Dave was just mentioning about different species being affected differently. So you can be paying attention to all those different species, seeing how they're impacted. And part of it can be, one component can be detection of EAB and monitoring of those populations.
I see that Rachel has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to also advocate possibly for a working group on management of ash. So insecticide injections, silviculture, biocontrols, people to have like actions they can take before we get to the point of like mass mortality.
Definitely.
I support that, Rachel. Great idea.
And so also for these groups, it can be kind of a combination of like, okay, this is a quote unquote working group. It's not necessarily like just creating GCC Ash action initiatives, but also a space for existing networks to sort of share updates with each other about, maybe work that's not like directly related, but, sort of just like a knowledge sharing sort of space. And so I was kind of wondering, going back to the survey where some various folks, like I know some of the folks from out west had indicated being interested in like a resistance breeding group. And a couple of people also had talked about, like mentioned seed orchards, and like Jason, you were one, but there were a couple of others. And so I'm wondering, like, I know that you all like already sort of have your little groups with your steering committees that like are working on that. And so I'm wondering what what role you would see having another group with GCC Ash would be. Or if it is just sort of like a communications group for like all of the various resistance breeding. Oh, I see Jason's raising his hand.
I just want to support what you're saying in that there are a lot more people on this call that are involved in TSIP, right? And I think that you're bringing together a much bigger and more diverse group of people who are not part of the TSIP grant is a great value for GCC right there. Okay.
For sure. I mean, that's the main point, right? That's the whole point of this group. Okay, Richard.
Yeah, I think at the very least, having a list of who expressed interest and what groups and their emails would be good, so that, for instance, from our point of view, as resistance activities take place, I'm already tied in with Jennifer Cook and Dave and back east and whatever too. So, nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. So it's nice to know what's going on with other groups, both here internationally, and I'm tied in internationally. So having that list of everybody who has an interest in, let's say, in my case, in Gaucho's resistance breeding, field testing, the whole genetic and resistance thing would be good. And I'm sure the same for other groups.
I'm dropping in the chat the list to the shared contacts form. And so what I did, I don't know if it'll open right up to it or if you have to go to the tab, but I added a tab called working groups. And like, obviously we're still figuring this out. And so, like I said, this is not exhaustive and I'm sure we'll be evolving. But if you want to go ahead and put your email address down, hold on. Yeah. If you at least put your email address down, then we can have an email list. I know that, people are going to want to know like people's first and last names if it's not like obvious from your email. but we can get there. But I think this is a good place to start because I already sort of had it created. Let's see. Oh, I'll add the management one here too while we're at it. Can you guys see did my screen switch to the contact list, or is it still on the working group like Google Doc?
It's on the contact list, Liz.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm thinking, I don't know if people have thoughts about this, maybe a good way to proceed from here would be based off of where people sign up on this list with their email, I can then, sorry, I'm thinking, that's why I'm pausing so much.
Hey, Liz.
Yeah.
For management, what exactly do you mean by management? Is that like collections management, land
Sorry, that
management?
is a really good point. Let's see, Ash, population manage. Let's see, maybe someone help me here. What's a good way to articulate this?
Active forest, active tree management.
There we go.
At least for right now.
Right.
So one thing, you all been mentioning how this group is useful for coordinating or networking and communicating. As someone who is managing a living collection, what I gain from GCCs is actually germplasm acquisition, right? So the purpose of GCCs is both accelerating in situ conservation as well as ex situ conservation. And so from the ex situ side of things, GCCs have members that are collections managers or directors from various public gardens, which is what ensures that we can actually secure all this germplasm for the future in the event that it can't survive in the wild, and we can effectively conserve it in situ. So I think for me, the great benefit is actually having access to all of these wonderful folks who are out across the globe or the continent, monitoring and collecting, doing plant exploration in the field, so that we can get all of that germplasm secured in collections. And so maybe there should be some sort of working group that focuses on that aspect of conservation, so that ex situ conservation role.
Yeah, I had that in mind for like that was sort of my thinking for the biodiversity collections. But perhaps that should be clarified.
Yeah, I think like let's say Richard over in the Pacific Northwest gets a boatload of seeds from Oregon Ash or something. Richard has to send that email call for homes for that seed lot out to a mailing list. What the GCC could do is support that for Richard. So instead of Richard having to go, I mean, Richard can still do this, but I think the GCC could actually facilitate this on a bigger scale. And so basically, we should have a group of people who are collections managers and curators, so that you can send that email out to them and say, hey, do you have a home for this seed or for these plants, so that all of that stuff can get distributed in a very efficient way. And it doesn't necessarily it could go out to that whole biodiversity collection group, or it could be organized a different way. I'm not sure the best way to do that, but just a thought.
Gotcha. Yeah, because how I had been proceeding with that is someone would email me and they would be like, hey, I've got this like ash, extra ash germplasm. Can you like see if anyone wants it? And then I go to my list of curators and I send it out to all of them. So I guess just having that a little more publicly separated out would be good. So like maybe that wouldn't be like a working group, but it could be like a specific contact list that exists. And then like they would be, you know, for the working group that is actually collecting the seed that would then go into these collections would be like the field collections, which here I have called biodiversity collections.
Liz, where do you have plantations? So like seed orchards, conservation plantings. In which group is that?
It's this one that I'm reading right now.
Okay.
Okay, I thought for a minute
I
it
would
would be
think
resistance breeding.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I would think
Yeah,
so
that's
too.
where I
But
thought it would go there, but it would also be kind
Okay.
of conservation of germplasm, right? So planting and treating non-resistant stuff.
Maybe you have like
Okay,
a germplasm group. So like you have a germplasm group that could include all the living collections, all the curators, collections managers. You could also have folks in that same group who have seed orchards, you know, so like all the germplasm, the seed bank folks, if there are any seed bank folks out there, or the future seed bank folks, you should have maybe like a germplasm group.
Okay.
And this is maybe something that we can do somewhat proactively, by getting those folks together on the front end so that we can go ahead and find tentative homes for different types of material. So which partners are where with appropriate places to store seed and or grow trees for specific sets of taxa, either regionally or elsewhere.
Well, for like when we think about specific sets of taxa and like where's the appropriate place to keep them, I think
Exactly.
that should actually, rather than us dictating that, that should be something that you just allow those collections managers to do for you. So you just send the call out to everybody, and then they will self-select whether or not they think it's appropriate for them to manage that in their collection.
For sure.
Even
Well, I
if it's
guess
a different climate, you know.
I completely agree with you. I guess what I was getting at is thinking about having some sort of framework together that when people go out to the field to collect, they know that it will at least have a home somewhere in advance. So I think that maybe we can sort of strategically plan for if groups would like to communicate when they're doing field work, more or less, we can start planning those things or helping facilitate that early as opposed to later. I guess what I'm saying is that I envision us having a sort of standing list of repositories for people that are really interested. But I agree with you, Kim.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna have to, yeah. I'm gonna have to watch this recording over after this for my thoughts to settle on all of that. Because it goes back to like what actually needs to be a part of a working group versus just a list of names. And like people are going to have their private initiatives that like they want to do regardless of GCC Ash, and it's like their thing. And then there's going to be the initiatives that GCC Ash comes up with collaboratively because there is the recognition that there is a need, but it's not owned by anyone. And so that's where I see the working groups being the most valuable, is for those initiatives that aren't currently owned by anyone, but everyone knows that they need to happen, right? Yeah. So and like I'm wondering, like for something like the seed orchard groups, like or these like bigger like plantings groups, like if you need, like, if you're looking for a, you know, someone who can host trees on a site, like, is that something that needs a working group? Or is that something where that just gets shot out to GCC Ash as like a question as it arises, like as people's needs arise? Like, I don't think everything needs to be in the container of a working group. I'm not saying there's no value in having a working group for, you know, orchards and whatnot. Just because it seems like you guys, it will be helpful just to have like more frequent communication between like different regions and whatnot who are like working with all of that. But yeah, I'm just rambling now, I guess. But we're now at 2:00, so I guess maybe for a good next step would be to kind of look at all of this. I'll talk, maybe the steering committee can get together and like debrief about this meeting sometime soon. And then I can maybe send out emails to some of these lists as appropriate. I don't know if they will like actually stay delineated in the way they are on the spreadsheet right now. But for anything that's like related to the working groups that are on this sheet, as things become a little bit more organized, I'll reach out and we'll do another, I don't know whether we have like another meeting like this or we start to just focus a little bit more where, you know, maybe I'll schedule a meeting that encompasses a couple of these groups and then like we figure out from there how to parse it out further. I guess all of that is to say, expect another email from me coming up in the next couple weeks. And please, please feel free to just like email me if you have any thoughts on any of this that you weren't able to share in the meeting. And if you're sitting there thinking that like none of this has anything to do with what would be helpful for like you and your group, that's probably not true. It probably just didn't come up in this meeting, or like I didn't explain myself well enough. Like there's so many, like we didn't talk at all about, you know, how all of these different like regional, like black ash, like there's a lot of different like micro regional initiatives for preserving black ash in the Northeast. And I know that you all are like probably talking to each other at some capacity, but I also know that like GCC Ash can probably be doing something to like help you guys out more. You know, all of that stuff. So, yeah, all of that is to say, please email me if you have any further thoughts, or questions or concerns. I don't know if anyone from the steering committee has anything to add before I wrap up this meeting.
I'll maybe just chime in and say that community needs are GCC Ash needs, so we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, and I keep saying GCC Ash like it's like a separate thing, but it's actually all of us. So this, we're not trying to make this like a top-down thing or like separate from like any individual member. Yeah. So very open to any and all feedback and ideas from people. Anybody else? Okay.
I think one other thing that will be key with this group is if it truly is a national network, is later maybe getting the word out of any advances to maybe the state foresters or other key groups that may help add support to keeping efforts going that everybody has going on, et cetera. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like once we do have working groups sort of up and going or a little more refined, I will be sending out, you know, at least quarterly emails to the entire GCC Ash group just to like give updates from like what all of these groups are working on. These groups, like I said, like I'm sure they'll evolve over time. Like right now, we're just trying to take the first step so that we can start doing stuff. Yeah, like nothing's going to be needs to be formalized and written in stone right now. And like the entire point is for people to like communicate more and benefit from an expanded network. Like that's the entire point of the GCC Ash group. We're just trying to figure out how to best split those into little subgroups